Today, it's time for a Christmas Horror Anthology that's bound to give you nightmares before Christmas. This is Dread the Halls number 0. Hello there, Comic Clan, and welcome to Comics in the Cross, the greatest YouTubers that you've never heard of. I, of course, am your host for today, Cross, and today we are checking out Dread the Halls number 0 from Image Comics. I am excited for this one, guys. It is, of course, the first review in December, which means that we are beginning our Christmas series. This is our special Christmas look at some of the Christmas books coming out, Christmas and holiday titles that are dropping. And I don't usually think there's that many Christmas titles, but we actually have quite a few this year. So we're doing a whole event, we're doing Crossmas, just like we did Crosstober back in October. And we are kicking it off with the Christmas themed book, Dread the Halls. And of course, guys, you know I can't resist a good dark story, a good little bit of horror done well, especially when you mix it in with something like Christmas time and put twists on what are meant to be happy stories that don't always now get a happy ending. I have a real inkling for stuff like that. I am really drawn to stuff like that. I don't know why. So as soon as Dread the Halls showed up in my inbox and we got the preview for it, I had to check this one out. This had to be a Christmas review. So I am so excited to be bringing this one to you today. Also, to address the elephant in the room, yes, I sound very different today. I have been struggling with a really bad cough since Thanksgiving. Hopefully it's not going to show up too much tonight, but I've got a thing of water here. There you go, a little bit of ASMR for you. A thing of water here to make sure that I am lubricated in my throat so that you do not have to struggle to work out what I'm saying more than usual. I know it's hard with the Scottish accent, put a sore throat on top of that, you're never going to understand me, so I'm doing my best, guys. But I am super excited for this. Before we jump in, make sure you go and do all the usual YouTubey stuff. Go and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any stuff from us. Hit that like button because it helps out with the whole YouTube algorithm stuff. And we cannot wait for this, guys. Let's jump on in to today's issue. Dread the Halls number 0 is created and written by Jordan Hart and Chris Ryall, with Jordan also being credited as the colorist and letterer on the book as well. The artwork throughout the book is provided by Lee Ferguson, Kucaj, Walter Pax, and Fabio Veras. Apologies if I have mispronounced any of them. Also, down below I will have listed who is the creator on which book, as each book has a different artist and varying writers depending on the story. So for more details, look on that below. The first story in our Christmas Horror Anthology is entitled Dead Notes. The story begins, we find a couple, Dean and Lauren, fast asleep in their bed at home, when all of a sudden, a hiss and a crackle start to come across the radio in the room. Then all the lights pop, as the power goes out in the house. Lauren springs awake and jumps out of her bed. She is yelling for Dean to wake up while she rifles through a drawer and exasperatedly asks him, where are her earbuds? Dean tells her that his earbuds had died and that he had borrowed hers for a call that he'd had to make earlier in the day. Angry and frustrated, Lauren puts in her half-dead earbuds and yells at Dean to play something on his phone. Dubstep, heavy metal, something else, but just make sure that it's loud. It has to be loud. Lauren grabs a few more things, including firecrackers and a lighter, and is just about to go and turn on the generator when Dean asks her if she can hear carolers singing. But what in the world would carolers be doing singing outside at 3 AM, in the middle of a blackout nonetheless? Lauren is panicking. It is too soon. There's not enough time. There's not enough time. But before she can do anything else, the tune and the lyrics of Silent Night begin to drift through the house. And both Lauren and Dean stop dead and drop everything that they're holding. And just like being swept up by a siren song, the couple walk downstairs and straight out of their house. They walk right up to the carol singers and kneel down in front of them, completely hypnotized and under their spell. We then flash back to when Lauren was a child, just a little girl out with her family looking to buy a Christmas tree. Lauren gets super excited as she has found the perfect Christmas tree, but as she runs back to where her parents were, she finds her parents are kneeling in front of a group of carolers. Horrified, Lauren lets out a scream. The carolers turn toward her and continue their song, but thanks to the earbuds that she is wearing, Lauren is able to flee and escape. The carolers agree that her escaping doesn't matter, as she is now marked. Back in the present day, we see the true form of the carolers revealed, the monsters hidden behind the visage, as they reach out to try and grab Lauren and Dean. But at the last minute, the firecrackers that Lauren had been holding earlier explode and let out a loud, deafening banging, and it's enough for Lauren and Dean to come to their senses. As the first story comes to a close, Lauren grabs Dean and drags him to the car, yelling for him to plug his ears, and when they get in the car, for him to crank the music as loud as he can while they make their escape. I think what I'm going to do is do a little wrap up at the end of each story in the anthology, just so I can focus specifically on it rather than doing a big wrap up at the end, because they are 4 separate unconnected stories. Excuse me. This first story, Dead Silence. Is it even called Dead Silence? This first story, Dead Notes even, is absolutely a phenomenal opener to Dread the Halls. It's a really great, just short, dark story, and it does a perfect job of setting up a horror, a threat. It has a perfect job of building this story and this connection that Lauren has to them, from having seen the carolers when she was a child and being responsible for killing her family and her escaping. But you get the feeling without them saying it that, you know, they said she was marked, but you get the feeling that Lauren has ever since been looking over her shoulder, has ever since had her earbuds charged and ready to use in case she ever heard caroling, just in case. That every Christmas she fears Christmas carolers in case it's the same carolers who did this to her parents. Such a cool, dark, short story. No explanation of who the carolers are. Not even an explanation of what they do to the people, what they did to her parents, or anything like that. But there is so much story, so much character, so much put forward in a short few pages. And for the opener story, we really didn't need much more than that. It was honestly a perfect opener for the book. Not my favourite story in the whole book, but definitely a fan of this one. This was a success. I thoroughly enjoyed this. So yeah, definitely off to a good start. The second story in our anthology is the only one that's written by Chris Ryall of the Fours, and is possibly one of my favourites, if not my absolute favourite of the entire issue, and it's entitled Gone Fishing. The story begins with 2 young boys on Christmas Eve, Alistair and Bernie. They're up way past their bedtime and they are setting up a trap for Santa Claus. They have gotten a fishing hook that is basically impossible to remove and attached it to an unbreakable fishing line, and are going to attach that to one of the cookies that's been left out for Santa. And it's not just any cookie, they have managed to get the best possible cookie. The best looking, best tasting cookie possible, so that Santa just cannot resist. They attach it there in the hopes of catching Santa Claus, as they hope to imprison him and have him give them presents every single day, forever. At 2 minutes to midnight, the man himself appears in their living room, and he eats the cookie that they set up. He's very impressed with the effort put into its baking. But then the boys spring forward. Santa warns them though, asleep before midnight and reap the rewards. But if you attempt to watch the magic happen, the magic might just turn on you. As they explain his scheme to capture him and his magic, to get all the gifts they could want, he then says to them, "And so as it ever was, that for some, lessons shall be provided instead of gifts." And with that he takes off up the chimney with the 2 boys in tow thanks to their fishing line. As the boys ascend and arrive at the sleigh on the roof, they are met with a helper elf sitting in the sleigh named Mary, who is holding a list in hand. The boys, completely freaked out at this whole situation, start asking Mary to help them and pointing, "Look, we can see your names there in the list. Please show them. Our names are on the list. They're on the nice list right there." But that's where things take a turn. Their names are certainly on the list, but this isn't the nice list. And this most definitely isn't Santa Claus. The man formerly thought to be Santa Claus decides to take the opportunity to tell the 2 boys his tale. Eons ago, on a snowy night, 2 babies were left in the woods. Without help, they would have perished. But thankfully 2 elves came along. But unfortunately, due to their size, the elves could only carry 1 baby. They made a decision that it was best to at least save one, rather than them both perishing in the snow. But later that night, the other baby still lived, and it cried and it wailed. One of the elves returned and said if Mary heard him, she would feel bad and take them in, but they don't have the space, and right now it's about survival. The elf then kicked the baby in its basket down the snowy mountain and left it to die. But the baby didn't die. It survived. And while Santa grew and flourished, he watched and waited. He wanted to find his purpose, just like he watched Santa find his. He wanted to have a reason for being. He probably would have died if it hadn't been for Mary, who became aware of the stranger who would watch them. It took to leaving him food outside so that he had something to eat. He also decided to take his brother's lead and began to keep a list of his own too. You see, their family was gifted with second sight. Santa has the ability to see the good, while he has the ability to peek under anyone's shiny wrapping and know what lies inside the package. He tells the boys that when he looks at them, he just sees hearts made of hardened coal. The boys begin to beg and say that he did bad things too when he was young, and that they have time to grow up, time to become good people just like him. He tells them that there is no time, and that he is in no way good. His list shows him who people are and who they will be, and the list never lies. These boys on the path that they're currently on are destined to grow up and become hunters, and will eventually go on to kill Rudolph. And it's his job to make sure that that day never comes. The man in red and Mary tell them that the other sleigh making rounds is the good one. But they're the cleanup crew, and it's time to clean up. Our second tale comes to a close, with Bernie being transformed into a toy and added to the sack on the sleigh to become a present for someone on the nice list, while Alistair is transformed into a gingerbread man. And unfortunately for him, the man in red has worked up an appetite, and there really is nothing sweeter than a Christmas cookie. You know what, after re-going through it for this video, I think Gone Fishing is absolutely my favourite of the 4 stories in this book. Not to throw anything at the other 3, and they're all pretty amazing stories and all really well told. This is definitely my favourite. There's something about it that just, it tickles my brain in just the right way. It's the right level of good, wholesome thing meets twisted dark horror in just the right way, for just the right level, without it being too over the top, without being too cheesy, without being too much, that it all kind of just falls apart and doesn't fit. It all fits perfectly. The thing I always compare it to is, I always remember as a kid reading Grimm's fairy tales. And I remember the Grimm's fairy tales always just tickling something nice when things didn't quite get the happy ending. There was always that dark little part in my head that like enjoyed the story of just something not quite working out the way you felt like it was meant to. I don't know why I enjoy stories like that. Maybe I'm just a little bit twisted. That's up to you to decide. But this story just tickled all the right parts of my brain for that. Talking about a supernatural being like Santa Claus and twisting the lore so that he's got this other evil twin, essentially, who basically, while he's doing all the good stuff, has found his mission is to go and do the cleanup and all the horrible kids, and the kids are worried about their parents being told, and it's like, no, I don't think I said it during the actual telling of the story, but he says to them, no, we're not going to tell your parents anything, because we don't want to spoil the vision and the perception that they have of you. That's what they're going to be left with. As he does this horrible thing and like turns one into a toy, one into a cookie, and it's a beautiful dark story with just enough lore. I love lore. I love monsters and creatures and cryptids and ancient gods and all these different things. I absolutely adore that sort of level of storytelling. So to put that in and put a dark twist on it, this story was just absolutely perfect, and the artwork amazingly complemented it. This one just was peak for me. If you pick up Dread the Halls for any reason, pick it up for this. It's one of those beautiful stories where like I want to keep reading and I want more, but I don't want them to do any more because I felt it was just perfect as is, and it probably shouldn't be touched again. But it was absolutely awesome. For our third story, Jordan picks up the pen once again to delve back into what is the sweetest story in the book, which might seem a bit bizarre to say for a horror anthology set at Christmas time. But it's the one of the 4 tales that really does have a sweetness to it. In this third tale, entitled Northerners, it takes place in the North Woods on December 24th. Christmas time is about spending time with family and the people that you love. Only for Shane, there isn't anyone like that. He's lost all the people that were close to him and all the people that he loved. And he daren't open up his heart again to other people because all that happens is that you end up getting hurt. He doesn't want to focus on what was, he just wants to focus on what is. And right now, what is 25,000 miles of snowmobile track, all to himself with no one else on the road, so he can fully open up the throttle of his snowmobile and just let rip Unfortunately, his 40-year-old snowmobile doesn't agree with that option, and as he takes a part of the track haphazardly, he is launched from his snowmobile and comes down hard. He has cracked ribs, a dislocated shoulder, and worst of all, he's about 20 miles from the nearest road, with a now shattered phone and no way to contact anyone for help. He has no option but to start walking, but he realises that hypothermia is going to set in long before he reaches the main road. However, where he is in the North Woods, there are so many lakes. There are thousands of lakes in the county. A good number of them all have some sort of cabin nearby. If he's in luck, he can find one and try and see if there's a way to get some help like that. Thankfully, after walking for a whole hour, he finally finds a lake with some sort of building near it and finds a little fishing hut by the water. Shane quickly opens the hut and hopes that fortune will continue to find him and allow him some more goodies. But he never could have dreamed about what he would find there. Inside the fishing hut is a young woman named Donna. She seems quite perky and happily invites Shane in. He asks to use the phone, but unfortunately she doesn't have one, but tells him there's plenty of propane if he wants to get warmed by the fire. Shane is still processing the situation and asks why is she out here all alone on Christmas Eve, to which she responds that it's her anniversary and the one day of the year that she can come back. But before Shane can process that information, he hears a massive and monstrous roar coming from outside of the fishing hut. Behind Shane in the forest is a towering, monstrous creature with white fur over its body and antlers on its head. The creature is reminiscent of artist drawings of yetis or wendigos. Shane asks, "What is it?" And Donna replies that it's the creature that did this to her. And as he turns, he sees her, now with a wide streak of blood straight down her body. She is the previous victim of the creature. She tells Shane that she doesn't know what it is, but that the creature awakes to eat one day around the solstice, and then it hibernates the rest of the year. And unfortunately now, it has his scent, and it won't stop until he's dead. Shane's brain is racing. He thinks about running and making his way to the nearby cabin, but Donna tells him that this thing was able to catch her going downhill on skis. There is no way he's going to outrun it on foot. He looks around the cabin and he finds a small fishing knife and he arms himself with it. But she tells him there's no way you're going to be able to kill it with that. Absolutely exasperated, he turns to her and says, and doesn't say, he yells, "Help me!" She says that she can't get the words out. She's tried to help people in the past, but the powers that be stop the words from coming out. But she is able to get out some words of advice. To beat it with your brains and not with your muscles. But as Shane is trying to process this information and how best to handle the creature that stands before him, the creature begins to smash its way through the fishing hut and tear it apart with its bare hands. But there's no sign of Shane. He's nowhere to be seen. But before the creature can look further for him, a deer appears off in the distance, and the creature takes off to go after it. Once the coast is clear, Shane emerges from the fishing hole on the lake, freezing but alive. Donna tells him that the creature is gone, and as it needs to consume a year's worth of meat in one night, it probably won't waste its time coming back to hunt for him. Shane asks if she can lead him to the nearby cabin, but unfortunately Donna can only point the way, as she's unable to cross the water line and make her way there herself. As they go to part ways, Donna asks Shane one last question. What year is it? As she's been stuck on this lake, appearing once a year every year, since 1978. The story then takes a very sweet turn after battling with a monster. After surviving the creature, Shane realised his family never got to fight for their lives before being taken, whereas he had, and coming out the other side realised that life is meant to be shared with others. So he decides to spend the night with Donna, as they have spent too many Christmas Eves on their own. When the ice thawed, Shane had the county look for Donna's body, but they were never able to recover it. So the following Christmas Eve he returned to spend it with her again, and then the year after that he bought the cabin and built a roomy new fishing shed. And that's how he lived his life with Donna on Christmas Eve every single year. Her anniversary was now theirs, right up until he passed away at the ripe age of 93. Now he could truly be with her. And as for the beast, well, to spend those years on the lake with Donna, the problem had to be eliminated. He'd already fought for his life and won, so doing it again for love was nothing. Honestly, I enjoyed this third story. It's definitely the one that's more out there compared to the other three. The other three are definite horror stories. You've got monsters, you've got creatures, although we do get a monster appearing in this. It's really not the focus. The focus is the relationship. The focus is Shane and Donna. And this sweet relationship in the vein of Ghost, of him falling in love with this woman and opening his heart up again and finally doing it, but only with someone who's already dead, and then dedicating his life to her. It was a really sweet story, really interesting. Excuse me. I still enjoyed it, but it was one of those things of like, it felt out of left field compared to the rest. It wasn't that dark, twisted kind of Christmas horror story that the others are that I enjoy. But as a story in its own, it felt nice. I wish we'd gotten to at least see him fight the monster or something, or kill the monster. We just got him like running away from it the first time, and then the life that he spent with Donna, like living out his life on the lake and spending one day a year with her. It's very young adult fantasy of like person falls for being, whether it be ghost, vampire, werewolf, you know the drill. It felt very much in that vein a little bit, which, although it was still a very sweet story, just I don't know if it was something I enjoyed. I'm sounding like it. I didn't like it. I'm sounding like I'm saying don't read this one. It's not worth it. It's a very enjoyable story. The artwork's phenomenal. The black and white kind of sketch look to the whole thing is very interesting. A very big diversion for the other stories, and I love it. I really enjoyed the artwork. It's stunning. And I really did enjoy the story. Just, I would maybe have enjoyed it in an anthology separate from this. It didn't feel like it fit with the others. But that's just my personal take on it. It wasn't a bad story in any way though. But let's get ready. I almost lost my words there. I didn't know what I was saying. Let's get ready. Jump in to our final story in the anthology. The fourth and final tale of our anthology is entitled Krampus Slayers. This takes place in post-war Bavaria, where a group of Romani refugees have come to try and settle and make a new life for themselves. Unfortunately, prejudice is prevalent in the town, and most of the townspeople are not too thrilled for them to be living there, and most are unwilling to do business with them of any sort. We then meet Thibaut, a young Roma boy who is joined while sitting on a bench by Anna, the farmer's daughter. There is some minor small talk between them, until she asks Thibaut, "Can gypsies really do magic?" You can almost feel Thibaut's sigh coming off the page as he explains that he is Roma and can't do magic. She says that she asks as her little brother is a prankster, but his latest prank went too far and cost the farmhand their life. She says she knows he will be taken and she wants to save him. Anna asks Thibault because if he can help save him, then the town may accept their family. But without magic, they don't stand a chance. We then jump forward 3 weeks and are met with Krampus leaving town with Anna's brother in a basket on his back, with Anna and Thibault standing dead ahead of him, bows drawn, aiming directly at the creature. Krampus tells the children he has no quarrels with them. Just walk on home and let them be. But the children don't do that. They fire arrows at Krampus and he deflects them away. Anna then tells Thibault, unload your quiver at him. And while Thibault processes that, she charges dead ahead with a sword in hand. Krampus says that they have made their choice and jumps into the air. When he lands, he shakes the ground so hard that the children are knocked over. Krampus tells them that many men from their village have tried to slay him and failed. And these two children think they're going to be the ones to stop him. Anna tells him yes, as she pulls herself back up to her feet. Unfortunately though, Krampus wraps her in his chains and pulls her in close. He says he's going to tell her a secret, that the true villains here are actually the leaders of the town. You see, they are the ones that choose which child Krampus is going to take. And this year, they actually selected her friend there, Thibault. But unfortunately, he was too pure of heart. He wasn't a fitting sacrifice. But her brother fit the bill. Thibault starts to pull himself to his feet, but is also caught in Krampus's chains. He begins to remember his mother's words as she lay dying in bed. Life can be cruel. The weather is uncontrollable. The intolerance of man is nearly as resolute, and ungodly beasts lurk in some of the shadows. However, preparation transcends weather. Patience, as hard as it is, combats intolerance. And for those wicked beasts, we get a little help. Thibault pulls out a pink crystal that he got from his mother, and he fires it at Krampus just as he's about to devour Anna. The crystal hits, and Krampus is filled with a bright light, and then disappears, leaving Anna and her brother unharmed. Thibault's mother's words come back to him. Combining, not dividing cultures, leads to the extraordinary. The story comes to a close with Thibault bending down at the scorched area of snow and picking back up the crystal that she had given him so long ago. Overall, this final story, Krampus Slayers, I feel like is the weakest of the 4 stories. It's the only of the 4 that I feel was hindered by the fact that it was a short story in an anthology. I feel like there was a lot more story to tell here, a lot more lore that was needed to flesh out everything that's gone on. Even in the short bit we got of the kids just fighting Krampus, if it had just been a case of that, fair enough. It's like, that could have worked, but just something as simple as like the opening of like setting up Bavaria and the Romani coming in. It then jumps weeks ahead to Thibault sitting talking to Anna. Which, like, why did we do that opening then? Or why did we take such a big leap between those? Like, there was no reason for it. And then even then when they talk, it isn't like, okay, we're going to set up to go after Krampus the next night to save her brother. It's 3 weeks later again. We've jumped another massive amount of time and we're missing most of the story. We don't see any of the preparation for them preparing to fight for Krampus. We don't see any of the story behind Krampus and what's going on in the town. Kids going missing. Why does she think Krampus is coming for the kids? Only when we get to Krampus explaining it do we hear that the townspeople are basically choosing children to feed to Krampus. As far as we knew, this was the only time he's done it. There's been no sign that he was given any other children. And then also the fact of like this special crystal to fend him off that his mom gave him. You know, it's like, is that meant to be a thing that can defeat Krampus? Is this something that's passed down in the family? Is this something that just exists out in the world to fend him off? Is it something because he is Romani? Is like, do they actually have magic after all that pushing back of like, no, we can't do magic, we're Romani? Like, do they actually have magic? Is that a thing that they do? I mean, hell, before that moment where he looked back on his mom's words, we didn't know she existed. Even when I'm telling the story, I'm assuming that it's his mother, and I'm assuming she's lying on her deathbed based on the images and the story that's being told there. But it's never confirmed who this woman is. Is she even related to him? Is it her deathbed, or is she just tired? Like, everything is just so open. And I'm fine with open stories. I'm fine with short stories where we don't dive into the lore, as long as we're given enough to chew on that can leave us thinking and theorizing and processing. With this one, it was just questions, and I don't think it was a satisfying story. It was just kind of, it feels more like we had to fill in the book. We had more pages that we had to fill out, so this story will work. Or on the other side, it could very much be this story's going in the book, but we don't have enough pages for it. Can we trim parts out? Either way, whether it was cut down or it was used as filler, I think it is hindered by being in here. And it could have done with a 20-page comic on its own, as even just a one shot. But I feel like it was pushed in here because even the imagery that you see on the screen right now of the front cover of Dread the Halls, they wanted that imagery of Krampus. Maybe they felt like they needed a Krampus story in there as a result, and to include him somewhere. I mean, we had an evil Santa Claus, but maybe we still felt like we needed Krampus. But, you know, it's just, I felt like it was hindered. I really do. Overall though, Dread the Halls, I feel like was a phenomenal anthology. It has some really great horror Christmas stories, which is a cool genre of stuff in itself. Had some really great dark moments in it, some really great levity to outlay it, some really heartwarming moments as well. Overall, it was a worthwhile comic to check out and good for getting in the holiday spirit. I absolutely enjoyed it, and what a hell of a way to kick off Christmas. We will of course be back with more Christmas in the upcoming weeks. I cannot wait to talk about some more of the amazing other comics that we've got coming. One of them as well is another anthology. Apparently Christmas anthologies are a thing this year, but I'm super excited. So thank you for hanging out with me for as long as you have. If you want to support us and get access to our videos early, you can check out the link for our Patreon down below. Just $2 a month, you get early access to all of the Comics in the Cross videos from all of our channels, as well as some exclusive content, including some content that just went up there regarding our D&D table and a wrap up of our first ever campaign that we did over on Twitch. Also as well, check out our link for BCW. Sorry, this cough is getting me. Our link for BCW down below. Click on it and use code ComicsCross at checkout there. Save yourself 10% and kick some money back to Comics of the Cross while helping to feed your amazing habit of comic book collecting, because why not? Why wouldn't you want to? But also as well, check out our merch store down below. We have relaunched our merch store on 4th Wall, and we've got a bunch of brand new merchandise, first time items that are hitting the store for the first time, and you can go over there and use code CROSS10 to save 10% on all of your purchases on our store right now. So please go and check that out. But that's all for me now. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. We'll see you all next time. It's a good week to be a geek. Take care. See you soon. Peace.